let's move to the last question. What really needs to happen? What should stop happening? Who wants to let's have the final and now I really think that this or this should happen, or who wants to give some advice to the world in general and to the Netherlands in particular? First. A second. Wants to be last.
Yeah, I could start. Yeah, well, I think to the maintenance world at least. So that's a big, I think we all talked here a little bit today about, you have the end users, you have the contractors, and yeah, and we talked a lot about as well the people involved, and to really inspire or get people involved in this data world basically, and how to include them in collecting the data, but also what happens when the data or the models are implemented. And I think that's in the maintenance world, at least, that's I see in the work, in the environment where I work in, is a really important step to be made.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah,
Other points. Bob?
I think that what we see happening is that, and we did it initially ourselves also, is that many technology suppliers are developing their own data infrastructure. Every sensor supplier actually has its own platform, and you can see the sensor. I think we looked, and that was a lessons learned from our company. We looked in the industry and we looked what is the most also among the CO2 emitting companies, about the 12 largest companies that are responsible for 70% of the CO2 emission in the Netherlands. About 9 of them, they use a very common data infrastructure called OSI Soft. I think ProRail is also using that nowadays, or is starting to use that. I think to have one, and doesn't have to be OSI Soft, but you see many companies reinventing a data infrastructure themselves without testing it on scalability, because AI or maintenance, predictive maintenance, it starts usually small, but then it has to be rolled out with a limited amount of man hours, obviously, and then you need to scale it up. And you better be successful, because otherwise the people that are against it, they will say, okay, we said it all the time, it doesn't work. So to start off from a proven data infrastructure, which can collect data from all kinds of different subsystems. You can even add sensors, interface for sensors to that. Have one environment which is scalable, which can work with templates to scale things up fast. I think that is a kind of precondition that companies should take into account when starting with big data analytics. The scalability of the fundament.
Good point, and also one that commercially, of course, it's interesting when you sell the sensor that you sell a platform with it, but that may not be the smartest thing to buy. Yeah. Jeroen, may I put you on the spot? What do you think should really happen?
I was just thinking, or maybe meditating a little bit about Rob's comment on services that are already there, also for data warehousing, for example, for data analytics, all the platforms by Google, by Amazon, stuff like that. And that made me think about, okay, to what extent do we actually want to have in-house knowledge about everything related to data analytics? To what extent can we outsource things to different companies? I'm not entirely sure to what extent that also holds for the world of maintenance, but because we also collaborate with a lot of SMEs, so midden- en kleinbedrijf, and I guess more than 90% of all the companies in the Netherlands are SMEs. I don't think it's very realistic to require all these companies to have all this knowledge in-house. So how do we handle this? Do we want some kind of low-level knowledge, or maybe high-level knowledge then, about what data analytics can bring companies and maintenance, or should we invest more time in setting up specific companies and letting them do the tricky stuff there. And that's more of a meditation or thing to think about, and not so much a proposal, but maybe somebody else has a light on that.
May I say something about that, please?
Oh, yeah.
Well, at the Rijkswaterstaat, where everything was doing its own thing. And we thought, well, we should work the same, we'll want the same. So our process of working on data-driven asset management and predictive maintenance should be the same. And we are working on an asset information center to share the knowledge of the data science on objects and the knowledge of the object itself. But also we are working with other companies like the EnerGQ Infra. I don't know if you heard of EnerGQ Infra. It's a sort of community with Alliander, Vitens, Havenbedrijf, ProRail and RWE. Share this knowledge as well, also on a platform. And so to combine things together and learn from each other. And I think the universities like Hogeschool Zeeland, Twente, Primavera project, we are also sharing things more than we ever did, I think. And so we should go, I think, to a sort of knowledge center on specific objects, and you can do it on a platform and use it for other things as well. I hope I'm a bit clear. I think we should work more and more and more together on similar subjects.
Yeah, and on the other hand, Jeroen, as if I may comment, I don't think that many of the things that are useful in data analytics are so difficult. It's just that they're so new and so rare. So just two stupid examples. When I was a student in the 1980s, I could make a nice living on the side by programming spreadsheets. Nobody knew spreadsheets. That was difficult on programming with macros, etc. That was a very nowadays the hockey competition is done in spreadsheets, of course. So now everybody knows them. It's standard. We make jokes. It isn't Excel, but still. And statistics, my daughter of 4 uses in Excel, in the fourth class of in high school, uses statistics to have some kind of correlation. But there was a first year course on regression analysis when I was at university. So I'm hoping that many of the things that we now still call fancy as for instance machine learning, become pretty much something that you get in your classes and also in our educational programs. And I think Jeroen and Michel will agree, it's far more than a specialized small group that gets this. You should, machine learning should be a standard part of many analytical programs, I think, and not perhaps the more specialized stuff, but some basics, yes. But that will take a long time before all these people who get that now at school enter the SMEs and work there. Of course, that is not a solution for the next 3 years. I completely agree.
No, I also fully agree on that. That in the end, also machine learning is basically applied statistics. So, or maybe a bit more advanced than that. But maybe I can also bring forth the kind of truism that you shouldn't overestimate and/or underestimate anything involved with this, because you also often see these kind of standard graphs that what data scientists tend to do is like 10% of the time is modeling, and the other 90% is preparing the data, understanding the data, visualizing some stuff, exploring some stuff. So it's a whole methodology that you have to kind of adopt to get to the right results. But I agree with you, Henk, that AI and machine learning are tools to be used, and the other stuff, like putting it into context, is way more important and more challenging than just using these tools. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. More recommendations for a better world, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, maybe I can make an addition to what Maria said, because I totally agree that the organization has to work more together. have also a shared vision on how to use data analytics, and that you also know from other parts in the organization what they're actually working on. And I think like a benefit of working like this is also that like the whole business is knowing what happens with like the data analytics parts of the organization. And I think here it's important for the data analytics themselves that they know what is changing for them if the business is changing. For example, if like contracts are changing, or if the way of working is changing, if like in our example, the maintenance contractor is changing their processes, that they understand what this change has an influence on their data analytics. And if you can also create some awareness as a data analyst to like the big business, then you also make sure that they are aware of like that their changes can maybe have an influence on the data analytics. And if you have then like maybe a platform or like a governance body in the organization that can manage this, then I think like the value that you can derive from the data analytics will be much higher. So also for people who start working in the data analytics, it's not only important to like have the IT and technical expertise, but also have a good feeling of the business and what has an influence on the data analytics and the dashboards and everything that has to do with this.
Yeah. And so the number of skills that you need to have as a data analyst keeps piling up. You need to understand the operations, the mathematics, the IT, and the business, and the culture. Anyway, there's a lot of work to be done. I think, and at the same time, if we would run this Delphi study again today, then I wouldn't be surprised if big data came up again on number 1. So I thank you all for sharing all these wonderful insights.